topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
What's working on purpose anyway? Each week, we ponder the answer to this question. People ache for meaning and purpose at work, to contribute their talents passionately and know their lives really matter. They crave being part of an organization that inspires them and helps them grow into realizing their highest potential. Business can be such a force for good in the world, elevating humanity. In our program, we provide guidance and inspiration to help usher in this world we all want, working on purpose. Now, here's your host, Dr. Elise Cortez.
Welcome back to the Working on Purpose program. Thanks for tuning in this week. Great to have you. I'm your host, Dr. Elise Cortez. This show has been on air since February 2015. It is a pride and joy for me, so I'm glad to have you with us. If we have not met yet and you don't know me, I'm a management consultant, organizational logotherapist, speaker, and author. My team and I at Elise Cortez and Associates help companies to enliven and fortify their operations by articulating their purpose and building inspirational leaders and cultures activated by meaning and purpose to turn those companies from a flatline EKG to a vibrant destination workplace. There, people are intrinsically motivated to perform at their best, grow to their fuller potential, and are committed to stay and dynamically deliver on the company's mission. You can learn more about us and how we can work together at elisecortez.com. Now, getting into today's program, with us is Hortense le Gentil. She's a world-renowned executive leadership coach and speaker. She guides CEOs and senior executives on their journey from hero leaders to human leaders and is the author of The Unlocked Leader, Dare to Free Your Own Voice, Lead with Empathy, and Shine Your Light in the World. Among other things, her book teaches us how to identify mind traps, operate a mind shift, and achieve a mind build. She joins today from New York. Hortense, welcome to Working on Purpose.
Thank you for having me, Alice. I'm delighted to be here. Thank you.
You are a delight. I'm so happy to have you here. Let us celebrate what you did here. I don't know if, actually, I think you do have children. So this is actually harder to bring into the world than your children probably were. At least that was the case for me. So congratulations on bringing this beautiful book to the world. I loved reading it. And as you know, I do that cover to cover. You taught me so much. So let's get into it. You're welcome. You're so welcome. So first, if you would, just because our listeners and viewers don't know you yet, because they haven't maybe read your book as I have, would you just share a bit about your background, where this whole idea of bringing this beautiful book came to be?
So I was I was born and raised in France, as my accent can say.
Mm-hmm, yes.
And my career has taken me from competitive equestrian show jumper to advertising, to entrepreneur, which led me to find my calling. I took the standing roads, I know, as an executive leadership coach. And today I help leaders to unlock their potential and find humanity and empathy in their roles. Mm-hmm. I live in New York, and this is what I do.
That's beautiful. That was an incredibly brief tour of several years that got you to where you are. So, okay, so now the next thing I want to situate, and this is really important, I think, for our listeners and viewers to really understand how much the world has changed. One of the things that you say in your book is, you talk about how companies need to be able to survive and increasingly in a fast and agile place. And you said in the 1920s, a company listed on the S&P 500 would expect to live for 67 years on average. Today, 15 years. So it really, there's such a requirement for companies and leaders to be able to collaborate, be flexible, and to be innovative to survive. So I think that's a really important foundation for us to start this conversation on, just what's expected of leaders today.
Yeah. So expectation has changed, as we all know, and in order to survive and thrive, people they don't need another hero, like Tina Turner said. They need to connect with you. They need what I call a human leader, is because they want to know you. They want to connect with you, and this is what, how and why leadership has to change today.
Mm-hmm. You know what I think is interesting, Hortense, and I don't know if you would have possibly seen this, but I put a post out yesterday. I responded to somebody's post on LinkedIn, and it was just kind of a little bit of sort of taken aback at that. Here we are in 2023, and we need to teach people to be more human. It's a little bit astounding to me, but I think it speaks to, right? It just speaks to maybe how fast the world has changed, and just the sheer speed at which we have been, I guess, expected to produce and to perform, and how that's actually removed our humanity.
Yes, because I think we grew up, and our education told us, gave a model of leadership, and the model of leadership is something like you have to have all the answers, always always show up as don't listen that much, because you are expected to have the answer and to fix everything. So we all of us, I think, and at school, this is what you learn. But in difficulty, today we are in such a difficult world where we don't know. So we wake up in the morning and something new happened, something bad happened, or something new, a war, mental health, or whatever it is. So we have a lot, around us, and we didn't you were not teach how to face that. And how to face that is, in fact, to rethink. It's not rethink your role. When you are a leader today, your role is not to fix everything, because you cannot. That's absolutely not possible. So, but your role is with others, with your team, your employees, with others. It's all together that you're going to find the answer and to go through the storm. I like to say that a leader is a captain of a boat. So you're a captain of a boat and you have a crew, and the crew is, of course, your employees, your team. And so you need your crews. If not, you cannot. You're not going to go nowhere, especially in the middle of a storm. So a leader is here to give the vision, the direction. So let's go that way, but doesn't have to have all the answer, and it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
You do not.
Yes, completely agree with that. And increasingly, the surround sound for me of all the guests that I bring on my program talk about how leaders certainly cannot have all the answers to it. It's just too complex of a world. So what I think is interesting, let's contrast, if we can, Hortense, the difference between what employees want and what leaders are sort of facing. So you say in the book, you say to give the best of themselves, employees want to feel respected, listened to, and inspired. They want to be seen, understood, and valued for who they are as individuals. And they want to be able to ponder over when, where, and how they do their work, and why they do their work. And so that's to me, of course, from the work that I do, I know this down to my last toenail, but it seems like it's forgotten in so many organizations in the rush for productivity and trying to remain relevant in the world.
Yeah, exactly. So people want to be valued and know why they're working. It's not what it's not. This is the main question, especially our younger generation, right? But everyone now, I think, is looking for meaning, and that's normal. That's normal, I think. So that's why we need to be human, and we need leadership, human leadership. So a change in leadership.
Yeah, and what I also really, really appreciated about your book, the way that you clearly do serve CEOs and senior executives, because I can it's readily apparent in your voice and how you write in your book, and you help us understand that leaders today have three main fears with regard to really showing up in this human capacity that you want them to. Share them with us.
Yeah. So so the first one is the fears of emotion, fears of chaos, and fears of failing. And why? Because emotions. So you're afraid to show your emotion or to talk about emotions because you're afraid to appear weak, to lose control, authority, respect, right? The fear of chaos is, emotion. When one of my CEOs told me one day, emotion don't belong to the corporate arena. Why should I share? Why should I share emotion? I'm here to fix. I cannot fix it. Yes. This is scary because they, we are afraid to relate to others, because if you open up, you're afraid that if you open up, people are going to take advantage.
Mhm.
So this is complicated. And you're afraid that it's become a group of hug people. Everyone is hugging everyone, and things like that. And failing is obvious, is because you are not used to do that. So you were used to do another way, the old model. And how do I know to how I do to handle emotions? How to handle emotions, and a lot have been said about why you should be vulnerable, and you should lead with empathy, but less about how to do that. And to go back to what you said just before, it looks like it's obvious, right? We are all human beings, so why it's so simple, but not when you are in the corporate area.
Mhm. It's so interesting, Hortense. One of the things that you said so beautifully in your book, helped us understand, is that some of those senior leaders become frightened that if they open the floodgate of emotions, that it's going to be completely out of control. And that's part of the fear that you describe in the book. What in my work, helping leaders to become more inspirational, so much of what I'm trying to do is to pry open once again, the spectrum of human emotion and the capacity to feel. Because it seems like what's happened for me, what I've noticed is, we start out as children and we're very, we can express a full spectrum of emotion. We can be completely mad and completely joyous and everything in between. And somewhere over time, that spectrum or that window closes. And when we get into corporate world, that we're, especially women, have been taught, oh, whatever you do, don't get upset, don't shed a tear, whatever you do, don't do that. And so I come along and I'm like, no, let's go ahead and bring the emotion back, because that's the thing that people want, is connective and sticky, and it's also what inspires people.
Exactly, because this is how we connect with others. It's through emotion. It's through our neurons. This is how we connect. But we can do it with boundaries also. So we are not talking about doing hugs every 5 minutes and saying I love you every 5 minutes, but there is a way to do it.
Yes, absolutely. So the heart of your work, which again, as I said before we got on air, I think it's just so tight and crisp, your work around mind traps. And so first, you help us understand in your book how to identify mind traps, and then operate a mind shift, and then achieve a mind build. That's the build of your book, which is beautiful. So, but let's first do this for our listeners and viewers. If you could identify, or I should say define, what you mean by mind trap. What's a mind trap?
Mm-hmm. A mind trap for me is a mental obstacle that stands between you today and you tomorrow. So mental obstacle, what is it? It's a story that you tell yourself. We all know that in our brain in here, it's plenty of stories, right? I cannot do it. I'm going to do it. I should not do it. I would love to. I had to. Oh my goodness. And he said that. I said that. I don't know. Whatever it is, it's a lot of stories there. So this is this mental obstacle. And this is when you feel you cannot move forward. You can feel unhappy, unsatisfied. You can show arrogance, or in contrast, the imposter syndrome. Those are a clue that you are trapped somewhere. You are not full of yourself. You are not whole yourself. And why is it a problem? You're going to tell me it's because it affects the way you connect with yourself and you connect with others.
Mm-hmm. Now, one of the things that you said that I think is really helpful for all of us reading your book, and certainly those that you coach, is you help us understand that a mind trap is actually something that you're hanging on to. It's a way of thinking and being that has actually yielded success for you in the past, but now no longer serves you. So what would be an example of like a mind trap where somebody has been able to enjoy success from that way of thinking and being, but that's now hindering their success?
So I could take, one example, yes. So years ago, there were a company, and his CEO took an investment decision. It didn't go, go out as it attended, as well as they said, but it was not, it wasn't a failure, but it was not a great success. So this leader felt completely guilty, plenty of emotions. Years later, and I told him, "Why? Do you feel so guilty?" So revisiting his life, he understood, because he wanted to, he felt like, he let down the team, and he felt he didn't succeed. He didn't take the right decision. It was a decision. He was not alone to take the decision, but he felt like it was not a success. So he felt, okay, it happened, right? And revisiting his life, we came back. He remembered that in this family, his family had, especially his mother, had this sensation to not belong. And in order to belong, because he was an immigrant, and in order to belong, they had to be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Be perfect. Do the best. Be perfect. No showing emotion. Nothing. And in fact, he was successful until now doing that, because he said, okay, I have to, to do more. It was never satisfied. But at one point, it doesn't help you anymore. And it becomes a mind trap. It's a trap. He was trapped here. He couldn't, because, okay, it was maybe not a success, but you have to, take a step back. He couldn't take a step back and look at it and say, okay, what can I learn from that? Because you always learn from, something that didn't work exactly as you wanted. And how all together, not you, only you, how all together, with your team, you're going to fix it, or to change it, or to, transform the story. So it's an example of a mind trap.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Hortense. Let's let our listeners and viewers reflect on that, like what might be a mind trap that's stopping them from being successful, while we grab our first break. I'm your host, Dr. Elise Cortez. We've been on the air with Hortense le Gentil. She's a world-renowned executive leadership coach, speaker, and the author of The Unlocked Leader. Dare to free your own voice, lead with empathy, and shine your light in the world. We've been talking a bit about her background and some of the work that she's doing with executives and the basis of mind traps. After the break, we're going to get into a few of the patterns that show as to how they show up. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Dr. Elise Cortez is a management consultant specializing in meaning and purpose, an inspirational speaker and author. She helps companies visioneer for greater purpose among stakeholders and develop purpose-inspired leadership and meaning-infused cultures that elevate fulfillment, performance, and commitment within the workforce. To learn more or to invite Elise to speak to your organization, please visit her at elisecortez.com. Let's talk about how to get your employees working on purpose. This is Working on Purpose with Dr. Elise Cortez. To reach our program today or to open a conversation with Elise, send an email to Elise, A-L-I-S-E, at elisecortez.com. Now, back to Working on Purpose.
Thanks for staying with us, and welcome back to Working on Purpose. I'm your host, Dr. Elise Cortez, as I too am dedicated to helping create a world where people realize their potential at work, are led by inspirational leaders that help them find and contribute their greatness, and we do business that betters the world. I continue to write my own books. So one of my latest books is called The Great Revitalization: How Activating Meaning and Purpose Can Radically Enliven Your Business. And I wrote it to help leaders understand the nature and state of today's workforce, and then I provide 22 best practices to be able to help create that in their workplace. You can learn more about the book at elisecortez.com or catch it on Amazon. If you are just joining me, my guest is Hortense le Gentil. She's the author of The Unlocked Leader, Dare to Free Your Own Voice, Lead with Empathy, and Shine Your Light in the World. So now that we've established what is a mind trap and got an example of what that looks like and gets in the way, now I think it's really, really interesting to help our listeners and viewers to understand you give us three main patterns that our mind traps tend to take the form of. And I think this is really interesting for listeners and leaders to be able to hear and recognize these three sources. So walk us through them, would you?
Yep. So you have trauma, where it's coming from. It can come from trauma, from how you identify yourself and or your role. So, but mainly it comes from trauma. So let me talk about trauma. Trauma is trauma is an event or series of events that struggle your very strongly your emotions. So it could be fear, guilt, shame, something like that. And it triggers also, your sense of safety. So I use a metaphor to explain what happened when it is the case. And it's, imagine that your brain is a house. Okay. And in the house, you have your bedroom, you have your kitchen, you have your laundry, everything is at the right place. So the bed is in the bedroom and the sofa is in the living room. But now imagine that you have a car in the middle of your living room. And imagine now that you want, to watch TV. You cannot. And why? Because you have this car in the middle of your living room. So this is what the trauma is. It's, something that is not at the right place in your brain. And it doesn't allow you to see correctly, to see the big picture, or to react correctly, or to be completely yourself, or to connect with yourself. And a trauma doesn't have to be a trauma like, a war. It could be a little trauma. It happened to all of us. It happened to me also. I was attacked years ago in my car. And okay, I thrived and nothing happened big. They took, my purse and my keys, but I was very afraid because I had my children at home. And so, but okay, nothing happened. So I continued to live. But each time, I went to under a street, I drove under a street lamp, I was jumping. I was afraid. So I thought, what happened here? And in fact, I had to go, to see, to look for answers. And this is a doctor, a psychiatrist, who found that in fact the trauma was, I have a car in my living room because I was so afraid that in fact I didn't thrive completely. And what I had to do is to go by that moment. And in fact, I saw the thrift. I saw the person who attacked me, but I was not aware of it. And so each time, probably I saw him, under a street lamp. So each time I was doing it like that. So same with so this is a trauma. And so your behavior is changing if you have a trauma. So I could share another example, but I'm sure you want more. But so okay. So the second one could be the identity. How do you identify yourself? We had, this survey with Harvard University, at the Harvard University, a survey about happiness, and they were asked. They were supposed to be very happy because they just entered the Harvard University. And in fact, the results show that I think it's 4 on 5. Yeah, 4 on 5 of the students were felt mental health during the previous year. Surprising, right? And why? Is because their identity was to be the first one in class. And of course, they were, with other very good, students. So and everyone cannot be first, right? But they didn't, they didn't readjust, and for them it was very, very difficult. So this is your identity, and your role is, if you think that, for example, you are, I don't know, you are the CEO of your company. This is who you are. What's going to happen when you're not going to be the CEO of this company? This is not who you are. who you are is Alice, Dr. Alice Cortez, and this is what you all yourself. It's your personal, your how you look, how you feel, what you have in mind. This is who you are. What drives you? This is who you are. This is not because you are, the CEO of a company. So this is So that can come from those three things.
Okay, so let me do a quick summary because you do this beautifully in the book, Hortense. I mean, it's just such a way to be able to bring things together, and I want to be able to help our listeners and viewers really connect with this material. So the idea, these mind traps coming from trauma, identity, or role issues. So with the trauma thing, you explained extremely well how that trauma can stop you and keep you locked in a certain way of thinking or responding. The identity piece that you were talking about, what I want to further do for our listeners and viewers is she's describing how, when people get them the study that she was talking about from Harvard, where they show up and they're for the first time, instead of being the best in class wherever they came from, they were number one. Now suddenly they're among a whole sea of other number ones, and it dilutes their sense of identity and calls into question. It's very, very, very powerful. And then the role piece, and I thought this was so beautifully and achingly tenderly done in your book, Hortense, where you do help us understand just how frightening it is for someone who is a senior leader when they either are pushed out of their role or they're heading toward retirement. Just how frightening that lack of role, that connectivity of who I am and who I'm being in the world, and the power that comes with that, the respect that comes with that. Now all of a sudden I'm supposed to go off and play golf with my friends. What am I doing with myself? So yes. I just really want to call into just how powerful these mind traps really are and how effective you really help us understand them and how they show up in the book.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Doing this together, Hortense. I mean, because your work is just beautiful. And the other thing I also want to say, Hortense, this is really important. Listeners and viewers, especially those of you who either don't speak a second language or do, obviously Hortense is speaking English. Her first language is French. She speaks French and English very well. And anytime we work in a second language, you have to work harder to express yourself. I mean, I speak Spanish and Portuguese, and with enough wine, a little bit of French and Italian. But I just want to also thank you for coming over to English for this conversation.
Oh, thank you, Alice. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, so now what I want to get into is you then go on and help us understand that we generally have two main types of voices that influence us, that when it comes to these, all this chatter that's going on in the mind. There's one from various individuals that we've been connected to that are important, and then there's the collective. Would you share those with us?
Maybe okay. Maybe I could share a story here.
Please, I love stories. So do I.
about the voices, very powerful voices, external voices. It's social and personal. So years ago, it happened to me. Years ago, I felt completely locked in my life. I was unhappy in my personal life and my professional life. And I felt that I could not move forward. I felt like I didn't fit, and I was lost. So, and why? It's because I will understand later. That is because I didn't listen to my voice, but I listened to other voices. Mm-hmm. At that time, what I wanted is to be an entrepreneur. What I wanted is I was unhappy. I needed to, to leave my marriage. But, the society said, no, you cannot divorce. No, you are crazy. You're at the age of 40. You cannot become an entrepreneur. And so you are very afraid because it's the power of the community, of the society. And one day I just decided, because everything went south, and I felt completely stuck in bed and sick for months. So I had to decide what I wanted to do, right? So I decided to listen to my voice, and this is how I unlocked myself, and I freed myself, by listening to your voice, not your parents' voice, not trying to please, to your family or whoever it is, but really don't live a life for others. Live your life.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is another beautiful illustration in your book of really helping when you're sharing with us many stories about people that you've coached over the years, and they say some kind of a statement as they put it forth as a fact, and you say, hold on just a second, whose voice is that? And then they go back and think about it, and they go, oh, that's my mother's voice when she said this. Oh, that's my father who used to say this. And every single one of us, ladies and gentlemen, are walking around with these voices, and the opportunity here is to get present to whose voice is that, and do you still want to listen to it? Because likely, if it's a mind trap, you don't. So she's distinguishing, these the specific individuals. They might be somebody that had authority over us, could be parents, teachers, siblings that say certain things, and then the collective voice really speaks to the religious, cultural, social norms, like it's a no to get a divorce kind of thing. So it helps, I think, so much for our listeners and viewers to be able to use this conversation right here and immediately put it into practice to help themselves while they're waiting for your book to show up.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely.
It's exactly that. Is you need to go to the source. So who said that? And after, but I think you're going to ask a question after. But
Yes, I'm full of questions. That's part of my job. Yes, I have more. So let's get this one before we get our next break here. So you also teach us that we can change our mindset through finding the order in the chaos and the human connection. So those are two sort of tools that you introduced to us to be able to change our mindset. So how do we use chaos and human connection?
Yeah. So chaos is. So how you change your mindset. So can I go back to the voices? Because I think, the three questions would be very relevant here.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we take, for example, back, the example of the leader that I shared before. So it was the voice of his mother. So his mother said, you cannot fail. That's not possible. And so being aware of it, you have to challenge your beliefs. Is it true? Is it relevant? Is it helpful?
Yeah.
3 questions.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, no. So after, it's the power of letting go. And this is how you begin, to unlock yourself. I didn't answer your question.
That's okay. Let's grab our next break, and I'll come back to them in just a second here. I am your host, Dr. Elise Cortez. We're on the air with Hortense le Gentil. She's a world-renowned executive leadership coach, speaker, and the author of The Unlocked Leader. Dare to free your own voice, lead with empathy, and shine your light in the world. We'll come back and talk more about those ways of being able to unlock your mind traps when we come back. Stay with us.
Dr. Elise Cortez is a management consultant specializing in meaning and purpose, an inspirational speaker and author. She helps companies visioneer for greater purpose among stakeholders and develop purpose-inspired leadership and meaning-infused cultures that elevate fulfillment, performance, and commitment within the workforce. To learn more or to invite Elise to speak to your organization, please visit her at elisecortez.com. Let's talk about how to get your employees working on purpose. This is Working on Purpose with Dr. Elise Cortez. To reach our program today or to open a conversation with Elise, send an email to Elise, A-L-I-S-E, at elisecortez.com. Now, back to Working on Purpose.
Thanks for staying with us, and welcome back to Working on Purpose. I'm your host, Dr. Elise Cortez. I mentioned in the first break that about my latest book that's come out, which is The Great Revitalization. What I did for you as well is I created a 3-page assessment that allows you to be able to look into your organization to see to what extent your culture and operations are meeting the standards of today's workforce. You can find it at elisecortez.com. If you're now just joining the show, my guest is Hortense le Gentil. She's a world-renowned executive leadership coach, speaker, and the author of The Unlocked Leader, Dare to Free Your Own Voice and lead with empathy and shine your light in the world. So before we hit our last break there, Hortense, you were just helping us to start to understand how we can break free or change our mindsets. You start talking about the voices that we're listening to, etc. And then you also talk in your book about how we can use chaos and human connection to start to change those mindsets.
Yeah, so human connection is, we are all connected through neurons, so through our brain. So how it works? It works by so you have a lot of them, but let's say that we are all interconnected, like trees in the forest. And our brain has two functions: control and read. So control is, control your thoughts, control your body, your emotion, and read is make sense around yourself. And we get, I think we get, research shows that we get 11 millions of information per second.
Right.
Wow. And our brain is so smart that it just take, the 40 that is going to maybe to help us today or tomorrow, and, arrange everything. And how it arrange everything is by making story, finding for meaning. How you connect is how, meaning, stories. We connect by stories. I tell you a story, tell me a story, I can understand better. And so this is what we are doing. And this is when you are a human leader, and this is as human being, this is what we do. And this is why at the beginning we talk about, that expectation had changed and you should connect with people. This is how and why we connect.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's just so beautiful. It's just extremely well illustrated too in the book with your stories. Okay, well then let's take it one step further, because sometimes we need some help to be able, some external perspectives you talk about in the book, and you talk about 3 of them: our immediate environment, from stories, and from professional guides. So can you share a little bit about how, when it's one thing for us to be able to start looking into our own mind traps and start to recognize how to get away from them, but from the exterior perspective, how can they be helped?
Yeah, because you always need we always need a mirror. So you can be helped by someone, so a friend or someone in your family, or a group of people that you choose, that you trust, with who you can regularly ask for feedback and think together. But you can also and share what you have in your mind. You can also find through stories, for example, stories that you read, a book that you read, and something trigger your interest, and say, or a movie. For example, I remember that when I watch Eat, Pray and Love.
Yes.
At the moment, when she was Julia Roberts was at the ashram, and she couldn't forgive herself for her divorce. It was so important. I felt like I cried. I didn't understand why. It's because it gives you a clue of, okay, if it triggers a very high emotion in yourself, maybe you are still trapped somewhere here, and you have to thrive. So that can be very helpful also. And you do the same with a book, and it can help. And from professional guys, of course, it could be a spiritual leader, it could be a psychologist, it could be a coach, and all those people can help you if they know how to listen to you. The thing is they are not here to judge, they are not here to tell you what to do, but they are here to mirror what you think and help you take your own decision and be yourself. It's your support, and we all need support.
Mm-hmm. I love what you just did here, Hortense, because I think I might have missed this little bit of nuance in your book when you talk about these external sort of perspectives, because I have been completely elevated, altered, transformed by movies and by books, and I hadn't thought about the extent to which those are external guides, etc., that have helped me so much. I mean, my coach, Sean Anderson, has talked about how he has been completely lifted by people he's never met through the books that he's read. And I just really appreciated just how you really unlocked that for us in that last little share there.
Thank you.
Yes. Merci beaucoup.
Merci.
Okay, so let's go on here. Now there's a couple of the things that I think are really, I really treasure what you did here in the book that I want to make sure we have time to capture. One, I want, if you could, talk about, you've got a section of the book where you're having, this is, now we've recognized we're in this mind trap. We want to challenge our fears to get past them and do something anyway. And you recognize there's a few things that will help us so that we can actually scale ourselves toward change. Can you talk about this notion of how we can challenge ourselves and get past the fear and do something anyway?
Yeah, I think you can first, face your fears. And I like to say that you need to have a conversation with your fears. So yeah, don't hide your fears. It's normal. It's part of being human. But have a conversation, make a deal with them. So this is a gift in crisis. So something happened, you're afraid of failure, of failing again, or fail or whatever. Think about it. If you don't do anything, nothing is going to happen. And if you fail, each time somebody is failing, I say, oh, good news, because we are going to learn something. You are going to learn something. What did you learn? This is very important. So see the gift in crisis. Organic support is how, who can support you? At least one person. You need just one person. If one person believes in you and support you, it's enough. And that could be your friend. Again, that could be the person that we talked about before, whoever it is. It's important. Somebody who see you. I like, to share, in the movie, The Star is Born, the last one. And when he said to, I forgot her name in the.
Me too. I forgot her name too, but I'll get it.
Well, okay. And he just said, I see in you, I see a singer. I can see a singer. Yeah. And, she, of course, she was a singer, but she didn't allow herself to do it. So one person is enough. And take a step at a time. Yes, because if you, for example, want to change everything, you say, yes, but where to begin? And it's like, it's a lot. So you cut in a little piece and say, okay, so I'm going to do that first, that second, that third. And this is how you live with your fear, and you make a deal with your fear.
I think that is such a delightful way of how you've opened that for us. It makes it accessible, but it also makes it less threatening, the way that you talk about that. And then to that extent, I really also want to make sure that we hit this. You offer 3 ways to let go of our old mindsets and make peace with the past. I think that's so important. Make peace with the past. So first you say, let go of the rope. Would you take us through that exercise that you put it in the book of letting go of the rope? That's so fascinating.
Yes. So this is very important what you said. It's peace is a secret to continue your road, to free yourself. If you're not in peace, it's not going to work. So let go of a rope. So, for example, if I take back the example of this leader, so this is what we did. So this game of
tug of war, yeah.
Tug of war, exactly. So you hold one side and the other one is holding the other side. So in that case, for example, I asked him to put his mother in the other side of the rope. So, and I asked him, okay, what's happened? She's holding, she's playing, he's playing. Yes. Okay. So now you imagine you let go the rope. Of course, he told me she's going to fail. I said, okay, but imagine that she's not going to hurt herself. This is not the purpose. She's just, there is a lot of sand and cushion and pillows and nothing is going to happen. So he said, okay. So he let go. And so I asked him, okay, what's happening now? So he closed his eyes, of course, to do that. And I did also. And he said, okay, so what happened was, okay, she was there and she just smiled. She was surprised at first, but now she's smiling. And she's happy that I'm living my own life. I said, okay. So you understood. He made peace. He understood that she did it, of course, to help him grow up, because she was afraid, and she had her own, own fears. But now, it doesn't, it doesn't help him anymore. So he let go and made peace, and he did it with love, of course, because love and gratitude, this is very important, even if it's, from someone who was difficult for you or bad for you, a bad person or whatever. It's important to do it with love and gratitude.
Mm-hmm. I think what you've offered here in the way of the exercises that you employ with the people that you coach are really powerful, Hortense. So the idea of letting go of the rope, what's on the other end of that mind trap of the tug of war, let it go on the other side of the rope, is powerful. Then the next tool that you offer for us is to rewrite the story. What does that look like?
Yeah. So write your story, because we learned, so we talk about that since the beginning, that it's all about stories that we are telling ourselves. So it's good news. So a mind trap is a story. So you can rewrite the story. So rewrite your story. And you can do it in real. Write your story, right from the beginning, what happened and everything. You will see, if you are still locked somewhere, by the way. And also write your future. And write it ready. What is important for you? Go back to that. What is important for you? And write what you want, and dream big.
That's so powerful. And then this one, the travel through time. I really appreciate your focus on imagination. How do we travel through time to get through a mind trap?
Yeah, because, for example, if you're afraid, imagine you're afraid of facing, or for a meeting or whatever it is. In order to go through that moment, you can imagine that moment. So you go through in your mind. You go through that moment. You imagine what you're going to tell to that person. For example, this is what I explained in the book, and it was a person who had to face everyone, his team and the organization, and he was he was asked to leave because he was too old, and he didn't want to leave. So it was like he was not happy, of course, but the organization wanted to do a little party for him, and he was so afraid. He said, "What I'm going to say? I don't have another job," and it was a shame. So we imagine him at this party, and imagine him talking with 1, 2, 3, and just let go. And he left. He was happy, and so in doing so, what you do is you decrease the level of anxiety, because your mind is already behind. You went through it. Fine. We're good.
Excellent. Well, we've run our time here already, Hortense. It goes by so fast. You gave us such a beautiful glimpse into your work and in the book that you've written. Thank you so much. It has been an incredible pleasure and honor to have you on Working on Purpose. Thank you. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you. Thank you, Elisa. Merci beaucoup. Merci beaucoup. C'était formidable.
You're welcome. So listeners and viewers, if you want to get more of this woman, her book or her coaching, you can go to a couple places here to learn about her. You can go to her website, which is Hortense le Gentil. Let me spell that for you. It's HORTENSEL. Le Gentil is LEGENTIL. HortenseLeGentil.com. You can also find her on LinkedIn very handily, and you can find her book on Amazon. And by the way, the proceeds for her book go to where, Hortense?
To the JET Foundation.
Okay, wonderful. So we know that there's even more to it than that. So if you missed the show last week live, you can always catch up your recorded podcast. We were on the air with Eduardo Briceño talking about his new book, Can Hard Work Hinder Our Performance? Next week, we'll be on the air with Wendy Leschgold and Lisa McCarthy talking about their book, Fast Forward, 5 Power Principles to Create the Life You Want in Just 1 Year. See you there. Remember, work is one of the best adventures and means of realizing our potential and making the impact we crave. So let's work on purpose.
We hope you've enjoyed this week's program. Be sure to tune into Working on Purpose, featuring your host, Dr. Elise Cortez, each week on W4CY. Together, we'll create a world where business operates conscientiously, leadership inspires impassioned performance, and employees are fulfilled in work that provides the meaning and purpose they crave. See you there. Let's work on purpose.